I'm Sue Clark, and I'm with CliftonLarsonAllen, and I'm in the private client tax group at CliftonLarsonAllen. So I'm working primarily with the donor side, so with your donors, and I do gift, estate, and trust planning for our clients and charitable planning as well. But I also serve as a resource to the public sector group, and I've worked with a number of you as well. So today we're going to talk about a number of the tax and economic issues impacting our donors and their planned giving. And the first thing I want to talk about is the PATH Act of 2015. Now we come up with these neat names for these tax acts. This one I like, Protecting Americans from Tax Hikes. Now this is actually what we thought of as the tax extenders legislation. And as many of you know, we wait annually to get these certain tax provisions extended. There's always a budget battle as to what is going to be the offset on these tax provisions. And surprisingly, this year, the extenders legislation and the PATH Act were made permanent. So this is a very welcome relief. In fact, it's pretty exciting news for a tax person, because otherwise, most of these provisions actually expired as of December 31st, 2014. And so we had a whole year here where we're waiting to see if things like the IRA Charitable rollover was going to be reinstated. Now we thought it would be, because it had been reinstated for a number of years running, but we didn't have that certainty. So now we have this permanency. There is a number of charitable provisions involved in the PATH Act. Again, the qualified conservation contribution provisions, which was an extender, was made permanent. Also, the special rules for contributions of food inventory were enhanced and made permanent. One that I particularly like, S corporations that give away some of their property, the basis adjustment was made permanent. The IRA charitable rollover provision was made permanent. And then a new provision, not an extender, there was a rule that clarified how we value charitable remainder trusts when they're terminated. And again, that's new legislation, and I want to talk to you about that in a little more detail. So probably the biggest news for charities, I think, is the IRA charitable rollover is now permanent. I think your planned giving officers can now go out and market this rather than having 2 weeks at the end of the year, each year, to react and take advantage of this opportunity. So this is a provision where our taxpayer had to be 70 and a half to do this. That's what's called a required beginning date, the date they have to start taking required minimum distributions from their IRA. But they had the opportunity to do a direct rollover to charity, and then they didn't have to pick up the income on their tax return. Now, correspondingly, they didn't get a charitable deduction either, but that difference of not having to pick up the taxable income could make a big difference to our taxpayers. For example, adjusted gross income, which the IRA distribution impacts, has a lot of there's phase-outs that are all based on adjusted gross income, and so this was a great tax provision to have made permanent.